Please give yourself some time to gather your thoughts and feel the atmosphere and see what is present in your mind. And you may notice, even though your eyes are closed, you can visualize things, experience different other forms like sound forms, and notice their true nature, that they come and go. We remain observing these visitors, not watering their roots to grow, but instead allowing them to experience us the way they want. And when we remain without interfering, they will disappear. You can take a deep breath in and release. Notice how much mindfulness you can apply to your in-breath and out-breath. Mindfully you breathe in, mindfully you breathe out. Notice your whole body breathing, providing oxygen supply to your brain, cells, your lungs supportive of this experience. There is air filtration happening and all that involving your being alive here and now. Embracing this precious moment that we call now. bringing up mindfulness to this experience, and we can apply some insight that we are bringing up right mindfulness. And that means cultivating mindfulness in such a way that it brings us peace, sense of letting go, and non-identification with things. Calming your bodily sensation, you breathe in and breathe out. Another wholesome thing to bring up could be sincerely wishing goodwill toward oneself and others with wholesome thoughts like, may I be well, may I be happy, may I be peaceful and calm, may I be patient, may I be able to forgive myself and others. May I have the wisdom to let go and release any tension, any tightness. May I be able to detach myself from unwholesome thinking. May I be mindful. May I be peaceful and calm. May beings near and far away be well and happy. May beings who are two-footed, four-footed, beings with many foot, beings who can fly, visible and invisible beings, those beings in celestial realms, those beings in woeful planes, may all beings be well and happy. May beings in front of me, beings behind me, beings toward my right hand side, beings on my left hand side, beings above and below, beings abiding in water, numerous beings abiding on earth. May all beings be well and happy. May my parents, spouse and children, significant others, partners, those irritating my peace of mind, those enemies, those who plant hatred, those beings affected by any suffering, those beings who are anxious, beings who suffer from fear and phobias, those beings who are depressed, may they be free from these circumstances. May they be well and happy. And thus with a mind imbued with loving kindness, with a mind imbued with compassion, with the sincere intention to help and support those who are in trouble, with the sincere intention to pervade compassion in all directions. Whoever is needing your compassion, wherever it is needed, may all beings be touched by my compassion. Radiating altruistic joy, not choosing jealousy over this joy, sincerely rejoicing in others' achievements and success, wishing them gladness and safety, with the mind imbued with mudita, gladness, radiating gladness over the entire universe. arriving at equanimity, mind imbued with balance, unshaken mind, mindfully radiating equanimity in all directions, unaffected by grief or pain or fear or any calamity. May all beings be well and happy. This is called sublime abiding here and now. May all beings be well and happy. May all beings be well and happy. May all beings be well and happy. Farmers to doctors, nurses to caregivers, school children to teachers, scientists, researchers, and all, elderly community, teenagers, those affected by various individual suffering, various disorders, addiction, may all beings overcome these challenges. Addiction to substances, visual things, sound forms, fragrances, all forms of attachment. May all beings experience deliverance from suffering, deliverance of mind through wisdom and not clinging. May all beings be free from five aggregates and their suffering, five clinging aggregates as they arise and pass away, give rise to wisdom and detachment, non-association and freedom from clinging, and thus freedom from craving, dissolving contact and feeling, liberated here and now, moment to moment. May all beings be well and happy. May all beings be well and happy. May all beings be free from dukkha. any form of suffering here and now. And come out of your meditation. Pushing. So, before I go any further, this is the poster for Open House Day. There's an effect that makes. I don't have it on the computer, so. But it says our open house is happening on November 8th, 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. There will be two guided meditations offered by Bhante Samik and I. You know where we are. 362 Broadway, Cambridge, Massachusetts. You know this place. But Cora asked me to remind our audience who may be watching this later that we are doing this open house. So one guided meditation will happen at 6 p.m. and the other at 7. So beginners, welcome. I'm always a beginner. Right? And if you walk by, you will see this poster designed by Bushin. Cora, you did the brochure, the new brochure. Yeah, so for today's teaching, we have this interesting reading. This has the name of a bucket of rice. This is found in the linked discourses. Aputtaka section on Aputtaka. Aputtaka means someone who came to meet the Buddha without their son. And so there are teachings organized under there. And there's part 2 in there, and you find this teaching. We can read it together. I have it with Pali, but I only printed the one with English. So the bucket of rice is called doṇapākakuraṁ. So sutta means a discourse. And let's read the English part. At Sāvattī, now at that time, King Pasenadi of Kosala used to eat rice by the bucket. He ate a lot. This is an Asian thing. We eat a lot of rice. Then after eating, King Pasenadi of Kosala went up to the Buddha, huffing and puffing. He bowed and sat down to one side. Then, knowing that King Pasenadi was huffing and puffing after eating, on that occasion, the Buddha recited this verse. When a man is always mindful, knowing moderation in eating, his discomfort fades, and he ages slowly, taking care of his life. Now, at that time, the Brahmin student Sudassana was standing behind the king. Then King Pasenadi addressed him, "Please, dear Sudassana, memorize this verse in the Buddha's presence and recite it to me whenever I am presented with a meal." He was serious. "I'll set up a regular daily allowance of $100 for you." That's a lot. He really wanted to overcome this. "Yes, Your Majesty," replied Sudassana. He memorized that verse in the Buddha's presence, and then whenever the king was presented with a meal, he would repeat it. Right man at the right time. So the verse again goes as, when a man is always mindful, knowing moderation in eating, his discomfort fades, and he ages slowly, taking care of his life. Then the king gradually got used to having no more than a pint of rice. After some time, King Pasenadi's body slimmed right down, stroking his limbs with his hands. Sometimes you try to bend over, but you can't touch your knees. That kind of body he may have had. Stroking his limbs with his hands, at that time he expressed this heartfelt sentiment. In both ways, the Buddha has compassion for me. Kind of meditation we did. In the good of the present life and the good for of the next life. So, next life means when the Buddha gives teachings, the king learns it, practices accordingly, and perhaps he reduces his weight of karma, that his next birth can be a good birth. Or he is liberated from the burden of having to be born again. That too. And there may be the story of where he was born after his death, but not relevant for today's teaching. Anything interesting for you in this teaching? I remember this verse by heart. This is part of the instructions given to monks by the Buddha. He says, practice moderation in eating. Many monks recite it so that they remember to stop when it is the time to stop. And monks usually go on alms round, and when they receive a meal, they accept it. Whatever is offered, they accept it. And they would go and recite something that also remind them of the purpose of eating. Reflecting wisely, I take this meal, monks say. Reflecting wisely, I take this meal just to overcome any old feelings of hunger and to prevent any new unpleasant feelings because of hunger. And also not to decorate this body or with that kind of, monks usually detach themselves from that body or not identifying with it. This is a little unusual for maybe someone who has not heard that before. Why do we detach from our bodies? This is what we have. But when the monks enter this order and begin practicing the Eightfold Path and higher meditations, for them to have an attachment toward this body and having to do all the makeup if they have to, and maintain their hair. That can be a burden. So the Buddha has given instructions for monks to simply shave off and become so simple that your form is now different. You can play with an image, your own image, and see how you look like, and with hair and all that if you want, but that's not the point. Anyway, so monks reflect on that when eating, that they are just eating to overcome any old feelings of hunger and prevent any new feelings, painful feelings of hunger. Just to maintain this body, imasakaya satithya, to maintain this body, and without any attachment to that food. And so that's an interesting point. When you have any attachment to the food, you want more of it. But if you eat more, and that now you are full, and somebody brings more, and you definitely reject it. You don't bring, I can't eat that. That's the nature of our craving. And then if you do that every day with food that you like eating, and you eat too much of it, there are repercussions that you have to maybe be on a diet plan. As when people say, my stomach is flat, but L is silent. Anyway, do you have things that you like to add to this?
That was so wonderful. Thank you. I guess I had a lot of questions, but now at the where you just let things end there, if someone is asking that you take more and you're already full, what is the kind way to say no? Or
you can simply I think the point is kind way to say something, right? This happens to monks all the time. When we are invited to a house for a meal, they say, I baked this cake for you. You should have some. By that point, we have been given 5 courses already. We know for sure that we are full. We can say, I'd love to have it, but unfortunately, I have to say no. Oh, if you want me to take some home, please, I'll be happy to bring it with me and then have it next day when I'm able to. So that's something we try to do.
Thank you.
Yeah. And here the Buddha actually was kind. He was not saying things like, you are a king, you should know your limits. Instead, bringing something about mindfulness.
Yes, and I was interested that you used the word unfortunately. You said, unfortunately, I'm full. Fortunately, I'm full.
Fortunately, also. I think fortunately, I'm full is a really good way to say, like something is right with me. There is a saying in Sri Lanka. This hospital's name is called Navaloka, and the heavens are also called similarly, like Divyaloka. And when the monks, when they are full, they say, monks go to Navaloka hospital, and people who give us food go to Divyaloka. So that's a reminder for some people to stop. It's good that they make merits and they have good intentions, but some people also are in a rush to serve more to monks, and that we can notice. And on top of that, I've also noticed state of mind because they don't eat before the monks, so they are always hungry at that point.
Mm.
And that also maybe tempts them to put more food into monk's bowl.
And I can imagine it's coming from such a place of kindness and generosity.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, I think, last time when I was in Sri Lanka, this friend's sister, she cooked. I was telling her I can't eat, but she insisted that I must eat something from whatever she cooked. And then I did. My kindness was to eat a little bit, but she wasn't, letting me stop. She was putting more from behind, like somehow I thought she was far away somewhere in the kitchen, but then suddenly she brings something and then it's like almost throwing it into the plate. And I observed my mind, how I did not want to waste any food. And at the same time, I cared for her, that, I had to say, can I please stop eating now? And I want you to eat this food. And I can come another time when I'm actually hungry and I can eat this food. It also messes with the times here and times there, that very different times, and I may not necessarily feel hungry those times to eat. Yes, Max.
Yeah, I remember a story. I don't know if it's actually a story that's in any text anywhere, but someone, I think, told me a story once about the Buddha eating like 3 bowls worth of food out of compassion for giving merit to others. So he like completely overate. Because is this a story that you're familiar with?
Maybe there is a laughing fat Buddha from China telling that story. No, I've never heard of that, but I must say that that is not the Buddha that I know.
Okay, cool, interesting.
If you read, what is the sutta there? I think Dhammadayada Sutta, what you inherit, where the Buddha says your inheritance is teachings, Dhamma, not any material gains. And the Buddha had leftover food when these 2 imaginary monks visited him. And one monk had the meal and the other monk refused to eat. And the Buddha praised the monk who refused to eat and stay hungry until the next day. And it's really funny how the Buddha can be that way. And the Buddha's point is that tolerating hunger is very important for a monk to also let go of the urge for, to indulge in any defilements, so that bearing hunger, to be able to do that is very important. And I observed that in my Tudong practice with other monks, that childhood food trauma was sort of attacking me. What if we will not receive any food today? That was bothering me a lot. Although every time we went on alms round, strangers somehow offered something to us, like some bread. That was enough. But the mind was creating a story that added to a little bit of anxiety, and that is unrealistic, that it was not true what the mind was telling.
That's so important, I think, because I have a similar feeling sometimes about food, like there's never going to be enough. So there will always be enough, but
Yeah,
that idea that maybe you need to hoard it or have more, and
right. And that can happen when you have visitors over and that they they see little food on the table, but you have the assurance that there's more. Don't worry, have more, help yourself. And that, of course, when at moments when you feel embarrassed, that, there is not enough, you can always put some eggs together and make a meal, and that way there is something for everyone. So that's a different thing. The way that the story reads elsewhere is, this is from the commentary. Let me open that also. So the Buddha gave this teaching, and I think the king used to eat 16 pots of rice or 16 small balls, like let's say, it's a lot of rice. So he cut it down to 15. I mean, the king, not the Buddha. The kid cut it down to 15, and then eventually to 3, and then to 1, and just that's it. That's all he wanted. So instead of surrendering to the desire of eating, he just listened to the body. So listening to the body is one technique, but at the same time that getting the support, like Sudarsana was reminding him, and that he was willing to pay for Sudarsana's time, and that he was sincere with his practice. There was also understanding that comes with it. A man who is always mindful, knowing the quantity, right quantity, and also knowing that food will digest slowly. I've experienced myself, if I eat more than I may have to use the bathroom too quickly, because the body is rejecting that food, saying, no, you don't need that food. And as I started practicing just eating enough, that the body kind of keeps, there's a clock that it keeps that food and digests slowly, and that you feel a different kind of energy in your body. That makes you feel really healthy, no matter how long you live. But that healthiness is essential for us, and that also contributes to mental well-being, not just physical well-being, but mental health. Anything you want to say? Are they not asking anything from you?
In the Zen tradition, when we receive food, there are things that we recite every time as well. So one of the things we say is about accepting food in order to practice, that the purpose of food is to maintain the body so that practice can happen. But the other thing that we recite is about being mindful of where the food came from and cultivating gratitude for the people that prepared the food. And I think that helps with moderation too. Listening to the body, but also recognizing all of the effort that went into food. I think makes the mind maybe less inclined towards taking more than it needs.
Yeah.
So I think there are different kinds of remembering practices that help with moderation.
That is very nice. That expressing gratitude, and that's also an experience that I had. Not knowing that there will be any food, and then you receive the food, and somebody put their time to prepare. Took their time to prepare this, and it's here in my hands, and that these people didn't know me at all, but they were very generous. That's really humbling. That gives you, and some monks have actually come very close to their awakening, and somebody offers, somebody so poor, give them something, and these monks say, I want to make more merits to this donor, therefore I'm not going to eat it defiled in my mind, in a defiled state. So they meditate more and let go of all attachments, and they eat that meal. And the stories are miraculous. Sometimes that person who gave the meal is suddenly wealthy because of something happening to them. And the relationship there is oftentimes giving made them rich. And the other teaching connected to this is that the Buddha saying, of all gain, health is the greatest. And your highest wealth is being content in your mind, contentment. And the best relative is being able to trust someone. And then the highest happiness is Nibbana. So for those who say that the Buddha said life is suffering, this is the answer. The Buddha did not talk about that. The Buddha said there is suffering, there is also highest happiness that you can achieve. There is suffering. He did not say life is suffering. And to make this life a meaningful one, you need to understand that of all gains, if you prioritize your physical and mental health, then you have that. You may achieve many things sacrificing your health, but that is not true achievement. That reminds me of what His Holiness Dalai Lama said once, that people sacrifice their health to gain and earn wealth, and then they sacrifice their wealth to earn health, regain their health. Did I see a comment?
Yes, that was from me. I just wanted to thank you because the appreciation of what is behind the food that we consume.
Behind the work, like people that work, farmers, they spend time and they have the wisdom and knowledge, while someone in town may not have that necessary skill to harvest and bring food to life, but somebody else is doing that work for us. So it's great, and that gratitude is important, not taking it for granted, that just because you could go buy it, somebody really spend their time in that. We don't even know if there was fair buying process out there in the market, that somebody may not have been paid that well. And that happens a lot of time. I remember my dad picking lime, and he packed them, and they just buy it on the street for very little money, and that's the money he had for our family for until the next harvest. That inequity, injustice is there. But did people think of my father and our families when they were eating many food that come here come from somewhere, some country, some other state, and somebody suffers out there to bring that food to us. Farmers in Asia are the poorest. It may be the opposite here, but they don't have the equipment, necessary knowledge and the support and funding to do the things they do, and that they rely on rainwater. So if there was too much rain, there will be problems, and if there was too little rain, there will be problems and all that. That's a different story. So I think when we look at this other teaching, this is like the conclusive remarks when the king regained his health, and the Buddha's making a point here that this is about physical health, saying health is the greatest gain, and then mental health, your contentment is the highest wealth, being content. And then social health, that's being able to trust those people around you. It may not be that, toward the end I read here that sometimes, you have, this is a Pali quote, but I'll read the English. If one has no trust even in one's mother, father, or other relatives, they are not relatives in reality. But on the other hand, if one can place one's trust in someone who may not be related, he is truly a great relation. That you can trust your life. You can trust them for like your life, and that is very important. There's some people that you trust, you share your secrets, and they use it against you. And it's hard for you to say anything to them, that they use divisive speech intentionally to break people apart, and that can be very harmful. So things like that. So the Buddha said, this is about social health, and then spiritual health, achieving lasting peace. The highest peace is total unbinding, where one makes oneself come to a complete deliverance of mind, that mind is freed from any state of being, sort of putting it in a scale of any permanent place where you can be. They say in Buddhist teachings that hell is also a permanent place and heaven also is a permanent place. But do you want to be there? Instead, can you make your mind be free completely from any state of being? And that total unbinding is total freedom. Anything else? Okay, we have come to the end of today's discussion. I hope this helps. But I think before I end, I like to bring this story also, that this Asian girl who lived in Canada, her parents were vegetarian. So she did not have the choice. She did not, whenever she ate anything at school that is non-veg, her parents judged her. So this girl then started craving non-vegetarian food. So she developed an eating disorder. So she started eating anything, and now she has become a social worker. And her parents don't approve of that. And now whatever she earns, she buys food, and she buys anything. So she has also developed another disorder of just spending. So one thing leads to another. And eventually she is now not able to move out from her parents' house. And now she has a lot of hate toward her parents for no reason. They did not intend that on her. So she is wanting continuous approval from her parents and still living with them. And that, how much problems that a child can develop because of something that happened in their childhood. So I share this story as a case to situations where we talk about mental health, anything involving health, speaking the elephant in the room, and that kind of gives a case for people to think how that can happen to anyone who's around us. Something deprived in their life can lead to having these other problems. So how do we help that kind of a person? First, forgiving oneself maybe is very important, and forgiving parents, and having a solid plan to move out from them, and looking at physical and mental well-being, like the Buddha helped the king would help. Maybe this teaching, we should send this, I don't know her, but I know this, the therapist who worked with this person. So anyway, so that's for today, and thank you for listening. Let's share some merits. May suffering ones be suffering free and fear struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief. May all beings find relief. May all beings share this merit that we have thus acquired for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness. May beings inhabiting space and earth, devas and nagas of mighty power, share this merit of ours. May they long protect the dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So may good things happen to you. May all your wishes be fulfilled. May you be blessed with good health, happiness, trust, and bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
See you next
Thank you, Bhante.
Namaste.
Namaste.